Hey guys, welcome back. We are Slice&Dice and I'm Jono.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Phil.
So we decided to get around the table just to have a quick discussion about what we saw at Worlds on the 2nd and 3rd of December. Pretty epic. World Championships 2023. We haven't had a World Championships for 4 years. So it's nice to actually see some high tier level of play come like full circle and see where people have moved on from after 4 years and one long massive COVID situation.
It was my first ever Worlds.
Hey.
Baby's first Worlds.
I mean, it's nice to actually have your, I suppose, input, because obviously you come from possibly seeing enough Worlds over the years in a Yu-Gi-Oh setting to see one of FFTCG setting, and I think it's obviously going to be much smaller in the scale.
Yeah.
Top 16. Mm-hmm. I don't really know any other sort of like Worlds for any other TCGs, because this is kind of like my first TCG. So like, is a top 16 a typical sort of size for a Worlds?
I'd say I only really know for a national level, to be honest, because a national level would be like either top 64 or top 32, and that's based off of like 1,000 players, for example. Then when you get to Worlds, it's normally sort of like I'd say it's top 8, top 16 from what I know. Because
we had that top 32 and all that, or was it 28 in Euros or something like that? So yeah, it makes sense.
Happy to be corrected though, so please correct in comments if always correcting comments.
I think we're also going to talk about some Winter Cup, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, off the back of World Championships being the first sort of showcase of potential decks at a high tier level, you want to go into another big tournament with a bit of an eye opener on what could be seen on those tables.
Again, it's baby's first Winter Cup, but I'm so excited because Winter Cup feels like this big, warm celebration of the year.
Oh yeah, it's like Christmas come early. You know what I mean? You're there to see the family.
And the best FFTCG tournament.
And I don't think we'll save it for when we actually talk about it, because we're talking about Winter Cup second. But yeah, I'm just hyped for it, not because it's a chance to play amazing card game, though it is. It's just like, it's like going home to see family for Christmas, weirdly enough. But.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I think I missed. Personally, on a note, I missed the Glasgow Winter Cup, which I was real shamed about, because I knew that was like the first after 3 years coming back into seeing people, and being in Glasgow for one, get to actually celebrate another city rather than Cardiff, despite the fact that Cardiff is great. I'm actually excited to live that life again. Going back to finding an Airbnb and just having a good 3 nights.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, so fun.
So yeah, I think if we check on the actual Worlds, the decks that we saw, though, I think we're going to cover top 6 really. There was obviously day 1, which was really fun to watch, and I think a lot of us had a little bit of a cry because it was just so fast. Fast.
On day 1, the Europeans were pretty scared as well, weren't we? Like all of our guys were struggling.
I felt really sorry to see after the first half of the day, JFB.
Yeah, we saw
0-4.
Yeah.
I mean, going into something as big as that you've got to see something different.
Hey? My heart breaks for that. But we saw the Kaka, otherwise known as Yamada. He was like dominating day 1.
Huge.
He was he XO?
Yeah, he was XO for day 1, which is huge.
His decks are fascinating. It'll be good to look at them in a minute.
So if I just want to point out as well, though, so that everyone who's tuning in is aware, if they weren't aware, day 1 was split between 2 decks. So it was 4 rounds of Swiss, best of 1. First half of the day was the first 4 rounds was 1 deck that you brought, and then the second half was the other deck that you brought. So if you I suppose if you performed really, really badly with the first deck, you had a different deck to rely on for your second half of your day. Or vice versa, you never know with the sort of decks that you come across. It was.
What is it for? What is it? I was thinking. So Worlds is like the pinnacle of FF. Well, for any game, it's the pinnacle. But what events did they have to go through for this? So I know that there's. If we start off with my knowledge, is the lowest. You got your locals, and then as far as I'm aware, it's Materia Cups is the next up.
There were Materia Cups throughout last year, and I think even some things far back as 2020, I think, if I remember correctly, there was Crystal Cups.
Yeah, I don't know at what point the cut-off for qualifications were, but I know that the Materia Cups gave spots into Euros, and the other events that gave spots into
There was the Store
into
Championships.
Euros. Was it Store Championships give spots to Euros?
Store Championships gave you tickets to Nationals.
And that was Huddersfield, wasn't it?
That was Store Championships was we went to the Huddersfield one, me and you, Phil, and then it took you to Nationals. Yeah. And then Nationals went to Euros.
And basically it's then Euros and then it's Worlds.
Yeah.
But Materia Cups also gave places to Euros.
Yes, I believe so. Because the whole regionals, were completely gone. They scrapped the regionals, which basically was. Regionals is Store Championships, effectively, isn't it? Same, just named it differently.
Okay, fair.
So that's how it all totted up.
Yep.
So we've got a bit of a way of going through like the world stuff. So as John has already said, we've kind of spoken. Day one is what it was. There was a lot going on, but we're going to focus on top 6 for day 2.
Correct.
And the way we're going to go through this is go through it sort of like match by match and talk about the decks as we go. And we'll start with someone who we didn't get to see on stream, which is Nozawa. So we're all going to have to flick into our notes and things like that. Because Nozawa is a player we didn't see because the first match was Coghill versus Hadagai. But Nozawa, it's important to talk about what he played.
Yeah, I did see him in day 1. So I've seen him playing. I can't remember if I've seen him playing both, but at least one of his decks. And he's interesting because he's got this signature thing of having in his Ice Lightning, he's got Shinryu and he's got one Medine, which you can search off the Shinryu, which is a cute combo.
I think the first time we saw him was actually on the very first match of day 1, and I think everyone was very like whoa with the 4 colours. I think that was the first sort of glimpse into how quickly backup ramp can go with the new Princess Goblin into all those different tech elements. I think. Just he got on day 1. I know we shouldn't be talking about it, but it's those 4 elements that he got down super clean. Like he got them down like immediately. It felt natural.
And there's so many ways to do this as well. Like his deck's so weird. He's got that Meath. Mm-hmm. He's like discarding multi-elements to search what he needs.
But then he's got quite a few.
He's got Princess Goblin with no water searcher that searches the Princess Goblin. But he's going with like a bit of an interesting Rydia summoner engine. He's very unique take on 4-color one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for a lot of the staple that we saw from last Opus 20 with Legend Cecil, Earth Cecil.
There's such solid control
that
card.
package. Yeah, it's proper mid-rangey. Yeah,
he's also added in for this as well the Darkness Manifest, obviously being like the other Opus 21 card we're now seeing, because a lot of people are doing like Darkness Manifest arc kind of plays.
Yeah.
So Nozawa was the first person we saw of the top cut entirely running Darkness Manifest, which is actually at locals has proved really effective. I know that Ant's been running it at locals, so it's definitely a viable choice because with any multi deck it's easy to pay that cost, isn't it?
Absolutely. I don't think there's we didn't see him actually play that on day 1. I don't remember seeing Darkness Manifest come on live.
A pretty risky strategy with the Darkness Manifest, the Arc, and a Princess Sarah. In the
being a
same
one-off, you just kind of you're looking at.
Darkness Manifest is very much a closing strategy, isn't it? It's very much like, I think I'm going to get game next turn. I can afford to put this Manifest down. We're doing this so that I've basically secured it.
And his Rydia can search his Arc. So if he's got a Darkness Manifest, maybe his third backup or fourth backup might be Rydia, then he's in a really nice position to search the Arc.
Absolutely.
With his other, which is pretty interesting, very techy. I thought both of Nozawa's decks were really techy and a little bit risky almost, which is cool to see. Japanese players always have really cool, interesting lists, I'd say.
Interesting thing is I was reading up that there was 2 weeks before Worlds where Hancock's, and I think it was Yamada, was it? No, Kaka, because Kaka is Yamada. Basically, Hancock went to go and play at like the locals for 2 weeks prior, and that's where they did most of their deck building. So they have a really dedicated scene there for the building.
Yeah. I think multi-element seems to be quite prevalent over in Japan, because I think it seems to be a running theme through the Japanese players.
It's interesting that Nozawa went on 3 Ixion in his Ice Lightning deck, which is very interesting pick. And he's gone for Visalis, so it's very discard heavy Ice Lightning. Well, so that's a shout out to Alfie at Locals. He should probably look at this list.
Yes. I mean, it's a package that I think we've seen for a couple of sets, to be honest with you, especially with Lightning and Sephiroth in there as well.
Yeah, and I'm interested that he's rocking the X Death, which is not. Don't really see that at Euros or anything. I'm not sure.
It's not. It's a. I'm not sure if it's dated strategy, but it's still decent to get each other's, well, at least your opponent's break zone removed.
Pretty horrible play if you've pushed your opponent into draining all their resources.
Exactly.
That's if you can't remove it, you just lose.
Exactly. So he did face up against. Who was he facing up against in
was it Nance,
round one? I think Nance had the moving on. Let me just bring it back up. I've got it. But he basically paired off against.
No, it was 13. I'm pretty sure it was.
Coghill, Will Coghill from America. He played. Oh no, sorry, my bad. He was actually against Alex Hancock's. So he went up against our Alex on round one of day 2. Mm-hmm. Obviously losing to Alex, who obviously moved on to face Yamada. So which one do we have next on stream then, Phil?
So the
first one.
The first game on stream was.
This is day 2.
So for day 2, it was Coghill versus Hadagai.
Right.
So we had Coghill on Cat 13, and then we had Hadagai on his Mono Earth Monsters list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so I've got, whilst you guys are getting your notes up, for those listening in, I kind of took some notes because as my first Worlds for FF, I can't retain information for these things. So when watching it, it's good to take the notes to sort of remember how the game went. So it was quite a slow start for 13 from Coghill. Whereas Earth was getting down backups a little bit quickly, so it looked okay for Earth to start with. But I actually played 13 at Locals yesterday to try it, not Coghill's, but it kind of showed me that 13 doesn't need to start fast anymore.
Although he was playing a really good rebuild strategy, wasn't he, Will Coghill? I was very impressed with his play.
Yeah, because Monsters seemed like it started to ramp fine, like I said, and 13 I was worried, and it even said on stream, he wasn't seeing opening pieces, we weren't getting opening searchers, but I've just seen flash up on Sans Foe, but one thing that happens later that absolutely shows where 13 is innovating is cards like Astinian to warp. Warping Astinian where you predict a board wipe, which is exactly what happened. Astinian comes in when your board is cleared and helps you regain control. That's where things in Coghill's list, such as Irvin, which basically 1-for-1 replaces Alba, because Alba would have been your, get rid of something from break zone, haste, or whatever it might be. I think Alba is haste or It depends if it was a summon you removed or a character.
Yeah, yes. Summon you get haste, character you get power boost. But Irvine just blows it out of the water.
Yeah, Irvine is just on his ETB turn 11k first strike. On a non-ETB turn, he's just 9k first strike. He's just great. And then you kind of not replaced, but you've added in is it Opus 16 Squall, is it? Or whatever Opus it is, that Squall.
Yeah. Yes.
So those control measures, like you say, that's a part of that rebuild strategy, isn't it? So it can be a part of that rebuild strategy.
Yeah, and 13 backups on FF13. Okay, 2 of them are Larketius, so those aren't really backups, but 12 backups is still more than a lot of these kind of decks would play, and it feels correct. I feel like he was playing FF13 to its highest potential. Honestly.
To be honest with you, I think despite the fact that Larketius I know doesn't reactivate on the active step, playing that for 1 CP to remove a guy.
That's crazy good.
from the game is quite substantial when you know you're facing down something horrible.
Yeah, we had a play with this, didn't we?
Yeah,
I got tunnel visioned on bouncing it with Une, and then as I did it, I was like, oh, he's just gonna play it again next time.
It's 1 CP.
So I only get my wall back for 1 turn. It's not like
1 CP.
We were in a situation where you'd got out a Warrior of Light, but without the backups available, and I just Larkisha'd it, and you were like, I can't re-establish this because I don't have anything available to do it. So Larkisha'd, depending on what you remove, is massive.
It's a weird hidden gem, I think when you see it, you're like, oh my god, that still exists. And so I think with Will Coghill's sort of build, it was that play that you said with the Estinian. I think you see the value in certain cards when they're played to the best of their ability, and I think he played that deck really well.
The Aldo, I was saying on the backups, the Aldo and the Sid of Clan Gully are lovely because at the moment because the things this deck loses, I realise I am talking a lot, but it's just because I play 13 a lot of locals. It's lost it lost things like Godot. So the way I kind of referred to these are your not as valuable items you'd search. So if I get a Cat 13 character search and I've got everything else in my hand, I might just search a Godot because why not? It doesn't have those options, but what adding in cards like Aldo and Sid lets you do is you can put things like Hope in your break zone because you're able to recur them. So they're really valuable. The only thing that is annoying is just the increased amount of non-Cat 13 cards. It makes Hope gain his attack less often, and it makes Fang a little bit harder to achieve sometimes. Other than that, it's a relatively standard 13 strategy that just does 13 things.
You've got the aggro, but then there's a fallback strategy should that aggro not get through the way that aggro does.
Yeah.
And I think that was one thing that FF13 sort of had a hard time dealing with, is how much you can get back what you lost and how quickly it can build quickly. But what I'm saying is that it's the general idea of it was just to throw all your forwards out. You had hardly any backups. I think they played 2 backups before or 3 backups before. Now you've got a backup game where you can actually get back some sort of valuable pieces to keep pushing.
That always makes sense. I think the numbers that he's hit make sense because with Lightning, a lot of games you're going to be drawing cards from your aggression. So it plays into those draws. Absolutely. To have backups. You're coming back with your next wave of attacks after the board wipe stronger.
Yeah. And that is exactly what happened in this game. If we kind of go over to Haragai's build in a second, what happened later on in this game is that Haragai uses basically board wipes. Is it with Genova Synthesis?
Yeah.
And after that board wipe, Estinian warps in to play around. So basically, to play around that, keeping up the pressure, which eventually wins the game. Because it seems like with Haragai's build, he didn't hit control pieces early enough. He hit the Behemoth, the Opus 19 Behemoth, did exactly what it needed to early on. Because that Behemoth, what did that Behemoth shut down? It stopped a direct damage, basically. I think it stopped a Cat 13 card swinging, which meant that Lightning didn't get its third trigger. But that's all it established. It got a zombie down later.
And it was nice to see this matchup. It was clash of styles and even clash of regions, because Japan's meta always looks more control-y and more slow than especially America is stereotypically more aggro, and you had both American players bringing mono ice, one on FF13, the other on Magissa. So it almost had this flavour to the world's top 6 for me, where you've got American aggression decks, you've got Japanese more passive style, and then Europeans coming in with something else.
A bit of everything with the tempo and a bit of mid range as well. And
I love that. That's part of why I love this game. It's just so many ways to play that are viable.
You can look at Worlds and go, that I've never seen before. That's a deck I've never seen. Granted, they had to build their decks 2 weeks after new set release, but still, the choice of decks that you choose to build for a World Championships, if you throw yourself into a whole new archetype that you've never played before, you kind of stick with your bread and butter, don't you? But it still is great to be able to see such variety throughout the tournament. But in terms of the mono ice list that Coghill brought, we saw a little bit of that on day one, and it's just ugly. Ugly discard.
It's so horrible.
It's I think I think
it's nice that Ice has a deck that's strong though.
Absolutely.
And it's all enabled by the new light card, Ruggagene.
Ruggagene, yeah.
Ruggers.
Sky Serpent. But I think what we've seen throughout FFTCG history is that different cards that that get brought out each set just bump up an element. Like Fire was at the bottom of the chain for the longest time, but actually, if you looked at the wheel, it's on FF decks, on the reported deck stats, you've actually got quite a big chunk of Fire now. The sort of the smallest that you see is Lightning.
Poor Lightning.
I think, but there's still some good strong mono Lightning decks out there. It's just that they've just not got the full support yet, I don't think.
They're yet to prove themselves on a world stage.
And there's not a lot of there's not a lot.
Sorry.
And there's not a lot of, because what the theme of what's been happening is in all the decks we've looked at so far, we've been mentioning sort of the new cards that have come in, like the Opus 21 cards. And the one thing to finish off the monsters list is that Neo X deck that he ran didn't do anything in that game, to my knowledge. And the problem is the other power card, the other power play Shinryu didn't do anything because he hit one on damage.
Yeah,
which meant
that's the risk of running two Shinryu.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's just why that Earth list I think just didn't work, because one, he got unlucky on his damage, and two, the X deck didn't do anything. So there wasn't much innovation, which meant that you had to kind of move on to that game two, really.
But the thing is, talking about brand new cards as well, we're talking about Opus 1 Shantotto. He's running 3 of, and I know that obviously is a decent sort of card to deal with any sort of aggro decks.
Still the best board wipe in the game.
Absolutely. But 3 of has pushed his backup count to 18, so he's seeing a lot of backups throughout the game. That
synergizes with Minor. Well, he's not even running Minor.
It was a very weird list that just had a few synergies it was missing.
So and he was playing 4-color wall in his other list. So typically a monster list like this wants 4-color wall, right?
Yeah. So the game two then was Ice versus wall, multi-wall, wasn't it? So Cog Hill on that disgusting Ice deck you guys are getting onto. So let's have a wee look at Ice. So.
Look at Hiragai's, sorry. 4-color wall. So the 4-color wall looks very similar to what I ran in Opus 20. I don't see, apart from 3 Princess Goblin, I don't see any Opus 21 cards. So I think he's pretty set on what he's been playing in Opus 20. I don't know whether he had been playing this in Opus 20, but it looks very comfortable.
I remember looking at this list and being a bit confused, but very interesting choice. 2 Alexander, 4-drop, Opus 19. It's a bit techie, but then kind of standard in some other ways.
I suppose you're looking at cards that are obviously decks that are playing monsters. I think that would. Ironically, he's playing a monster deck on the other side as well.
Yeah.
So
I think this kind of says, Sam was saying earlier that with Nozawa's list that it didn't have a few consistencies you'd expect from a deck like this. So what is being ran here is the Verena for the Goblin search for Princess Goblin.
Exactly.
So that's probably why Hadagai was okay on this one, because he had a bit more of a consistent list that is tried and true, with those tech choices that would have came in handy.
Yeah.
Because he ended up getting that classic sort of like he ended up basically getting the Rosa established with the Warrior of Light, and that's just like that signature multi-strategy of get off your double Warrior of Light with Rosa. White fix it if it ain't broke, I think is the
Yeah. I definitely think this build is, especially with you got Rydia, the 2CP summon Rydia as a one-off. With that many summons, I think you're probably okay.
And in Cecil, you can build the counters. He's got a bunch of sort of 3-4 drop summons, so it looks pretty tidy. And I think it's right running Rydia as like 1, because I don't think it's not as we've heard several like good players say, it's easy to get Rydia with counters one time. Doing it again, that's where the deck Rydia stuff falls down. So 1 of Rydia seems like a really good strategy.
Yeah, no, I think it was a. I can't necessarily remember that game.
The only real notes I have for that game was that Hadagai took an early damage and hit a Kusith, and from then on, I can't remember. It's frustrating I don't have down what he took off of that Kusith, but he basically used that to gain advantage immediately from then on, the moment he established the Rosa, he was out tempoing, and it was just a case of he had complete control at that point. Once that Rosa was down.
Yeah, I think it does go to show that the aggression within the room on both days was high. In terms of decks doing what they should do, which is just basically beat down.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say apart from, which we'll get to in a minute, Alex's mono wind, there's no real control going
I think
them.
multicolour wall decks are like mid-range control.
Yeah,
they're not aggro decks.
They're not aggro,
right?
no. But at the same time, if you actually put your effort into, say, like wall, like you're saying with the Rosa wall, that is like, you're not playing anything, I'm killing everything, sort of like aggro.
Yeah, well, it's like ideally that deck wants to get it to its 4 colours.
Absolutely.
To play, like, if it gets aggroed, it doesn't have the choice.
True.
And that's its strategy.
True.
Otherwise, to cheat it out. But definitely, like at least 50% of the room seemed like aggro ish.
If we go on to before we finish on this particular like best of 3, so to speak, because we haven't really spoken about this ice list very much.
Will Cog Hills.
Yes, for Cog Hills, because in Game 3, because in Game 3, we then get to Ice versus the Earth monsters. And, and again, my only notes for this, which will probably help us talk about how aggressive this deck is that Hadagai just couldn't keep up. He got destroyed.
No.
Yeah.
So let's go through why this list just did what it did.
These ice lists are so scary.
Simple is the new... how do you say it? The Lothian. Lefenian? That's the one. Lefenian.
Yeah,
Lufenian, yeah.
So, if anyone hasn't seen this card yet, which I'm surprised you haven't, is when it enters the field, if you control one backup, if you control only one backup, your opponent discards 1 card. So, basically, play this on turn 1, your opponent discards a card. Next into, what was it, Rufus? Discard a card.
Yeah, Rufus and Sky Serpent. Sky Serpent haste Rufus. Discard another card. Could you do that all that on turn 1, or do that across 2 turns?
I did see
pretty nasty.
Yeah, I saw throughout the world's experience was Lefenian turn like if you're going first, Lefenian if you've got Rufus in hand, Rufus on board. The person who goes second has 5 cards obviously when they go to draw phase.
Yeah.
So you're 2 cards down to begin your turn next turn. It's not turbo mono-wise, but you get the same feeling when you're against it that you're playing against Thaumaturge and Gesper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that same sort of aggression.
And Mike threw this deck at me at locals. I thought I cleared his Sky Serpent and Rufus early, and I was like, right, I'm good from here. You had to pay full price for that Sky Serpent. And then he drew a bunch of Physalis and won the game. He just discard, premium bullet, discard. And I was like, oh, I'm dead. Horribly nasty deck.
Yeah.
It is. And it's been sped up even further. So we were saying about this discard. Imagine you do the Lufenian Rufus and you take your opponent down to 3 cards, essentially 5. You've got then the new Y'shtola from Opus 21 that everyone is running in quite a lot of lists now. So that's another. So we've seen so far what Darkness Manifest. We've seen Rugagine. We've seen Y'shtola. We've seen all these new Opus 21 cards. And Y'shtola is if your opponent has 2 cards or less in their hand, she gets fast. She goes haste.
Yeah.
And then she's deal 9,000 damage, but choose a forward. When she attacks, deal 9,000 damage minus 1,000 for every card in your opponent's hand. So basically, if your opponent's hand is empty, she does 9k damage and she's fast.
Yeah.
And this is everyone was saying previously about Ice. It doesn't have good removal.
That's one thing.
This is the card that comes and brings it in.
Exactly.
Works best in a discard strategy, which a lot of players do not like.
Yeah.
And it is rough to play against. Let me tell you that.
And if she doesn't have haste for whatever reason, Rugagine gives her haste.
Exactly.
So and also kind of protect her by giving her first strike and so on and so forth. It's pretty aggressive, and I think that is. I saw more of that in the ice decks. I saw less of sort of like I think I saw Laswell like later on, or if it was in a game. Whereas you sort of like you stole a Rugagine. It's now your opening gambit with this, isn't it?
Yeah. On that, I would say like. You're looking to exploit haste off Sky Serpent Rugagine. So, you want your Rufus as your ideal target, your Y'shtolas are good, your Physalis is good, and then it's like your 3rd option or your 4th option is Laswell, because you get the discard at the end of turn if your opponent can't remove them.
Yeah.
It's worth saying as well that we will put a link to like all of the lists we're talking about in the description of the platform you are listening to.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we try and get a link to all the lists.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Worlds event. Yeah.
But we can see why this is such a fast list based off of what the like Rubber Genius style we've just spoken about. But the next match is Alex versus Yamada.
Okay, so then this we are moving into semis effectively.
Yeah.
So we're in semi-finals with Alex Hancox from UK and Yamada from Japan.
Yep. And you've got your only hope in Europe versus the player in Japan who beat everyone flawlessly in the first day.
Yeah.
And so this is like this is absolutely terrifying for Alex. I was like,
I mean, if I remember rightly, I do remember him actually saying that he felt not at this point, but he felt like he wasn't necessarily like feeling confident that he was actually going to win Worlds. He felt like it was going to fall off on day one. Not after day one, but going into day one, he felt like he was going to fall off on day one.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting to see that. I think on the first game he played his Warrior of Light, which also was debuted by the light 7-drop light Warrior of Light that was debuted by the last World's champion, which was, I've forgotten how you pronounce his surname or his name, Yabuchi. Is that
okay?
Is that how you say him?
Yeah.
He had a Warrior of Light deck as well.
Yeah.
I think this is the deck that Phil was referring to when Alex was testing with the Japanese players.
It's kind of awkward because they both know each other's lists because they built them together. They may have made modifications in their spare time, but my only notes for this one are that I was scrubbing through the actual like recording for Worlds, and I missed this game and didn't think it happened because that's how fast it was. This match was so fast because Hancock's build just turboed. It just I think if I remember right, did Kaka whiff? I think Yamada actually whiffed.
Yeah, I think something like that may have happened, yeah.
Something along those lines, but they're both very similar decks. So let's kind of go through one of them and sort of see what the differences are with these, maybe.
Yeah, and I need. I don't know about you two, but I need to test against this list more.
I think because we're going to see this at Winter Cup, aren't we?
Surely.
Yeah, I think I had a couple of words with Alex post tournament, and he said he'll be very surprised if he doesn't see potentially an exact list of his own being showcased, like being brought to Winter Cup. So yeah, you might run into it. You just might.
So I've got up.
If you do,
yes, I've got up Yamada's list.
Sweet.
So let's have a look here. So the common things I've seen from this, which you guys can chip in with, is like we've seen Axstar, for example, is pretty common in this. Although he's running the Fire Ice Axstar. I thought it was. That's the Axstar. That is the Axstar. Yeah. Fine. Then we're seeing I think Faris, Yazuki. Zeromus is pretty common, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently Zeromus is a key piece, but the beautiful thing about this deck is it just breathed new life into Gilgamesh FFBE.
Yeah, well,
a card that was always close to having a high potential, but never really had the deck to call home. Whereas apparently it's just great here.
Yeah, you do have to have all the pieces and quite a high ceiling for it as well. So
every element in your break zone, every except one. Yeah.
Well, the classic thing that he's got in the deck, and I think also Yabuchi did as well, was having 4-drop wall, the multi-element wall. I highly doubt he was actually going to intend to play that card. I think it was specifically discarded as CP for any of those elements, obviously, to have in your deck for Gilgamesh.
It's a consistency discard card in this deck, which is
absolutely
wild.
I think, to think of this card dominating Opus 20 a lot, and then now it's just used as CP fodder for the rest of the deck, and on this one, I think it's pretty insane.
Yep.
And this list doesn't run any summons, which I think was one of the key differences? I'm just loading up the list.
Yeah. And Alex talked about that. He got some advice from a friend who said, one Muti and a small suite of summons might give him the edge. And he had one Amat.
He's got
it really came into the tournament.
He has got
Just one
Sorry,
Amat, one
yeah, it's
Amat.
an Amat and then the Crystal Bahamut. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that as you say, that one Amat sort of like stifled his opponent. It was a mirror match,
Yeah.
I think it was, and he was able to Amat his opponent's Warrior of Light. I think it was against Yabuchi in day one.
Mm-hmm.
Before playing his own, you know what I mean, and then he's just like, well, he's won.
Yeah, I remember that
quite
moment.
clearly.
But I think that. Oh, go on. You go.
There was just a lot of moments in this tournament where it seemed like Alex had a little bit of fortune on his side to complete that pseudo underdog tale.
Yeah, after his wins, spoiler there, sorry, but after his win, it was he simply said he had. He brought the skill with a small bit of luck, which is very true because I think it was.
Yeah.
Was it one of these games that he hit the 2x EXs that he needed to get him out of a situation?
Yeah, he hit 2x's on his win list at one point, didn't
Yeah.
he? Was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the win list. And he hit a Lena.
Yeah,
and
5 EXs and he hit 2.
yeah. He hit Arya first to search him out a Warrior of Light, and then he hit a Lena for a draw, which gave him more CP to hand. Which I think this was against actually Nance in the finals. So I think we're skipping.
I felt really bad for him there.
Yeah, we're going to die
But to credit to him, there's not many players in the world who can play mono wind in that room with these new Warrior of Light decks, and he's one of them. So, not taking any credit away from his skill,
No, absolutely. I think I think when we're talking about bread and butter, mono wind is Alex's bread and butter. He sits so nicely within wind, and he is like his thing to play with and have.
Yeah,
he's done such good.
One of the best players for processing those lines of play quickly.
Absolutely.
God knows if I try and do that, my brain starts turning to mush.
Yeah, it was a really fast game between those two, and the main note I had there is the moment Alex saw Zeromus and Edge on board, he had 3 damage basically immediately. And,
it was that one.
Zeromus and Edge, and Edge gave itself haste, and off you go, 3 damage.
That was it. Okay, so I'm remembering now. It wasn't Yabuchi. It was actually. I'm so sorry. It was actually Yamada who actually had the other wall deck, and this is the game I'm thinking.
Yeah, this is the game.
I've got all games smashed into one.
Yamada, or I think the name he goes by is Kaka.
Kaka. Yeah. So basically, what he did was when he amatted Yamada's wall, Kaka's wall.
Yeah.
He then played his own wall in his turn and top decked Zeromus and the Edge. The Edge was able to nicely remove, because I think in the previous turn, Yamada, don't know how or don't know why, but he managed to get back or get to hand Gilgamesh, which Alex saw. I forget.
Oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah, he removed the Warrior of Light.
He chose Edge purposely to remove Warrior of Light.
The 4-color one.
The 4-color Warrior of Light. And
completely made Gilgamesh so much worse.
I think it was something else, but yeah, that completely stifled the Yamada's next turn of most likely playing Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
So that was
big brain. I remember that.
Smart.
Yeah.
Everyone, I think the guys on stream were even the commentators were very much like, why the Edge? Oh, that's why.
Yeah. No one saw it.
It was great.
Love to see it.
Yeah.
So one Edge as well.
So after that fast game, we went into their water versus wind matchup. So we had Alex on wind and Yamada on water. So
okay, this is the water ice deck, is it?
Yeah.
This deck looks so cool. I'm sad I didn't ever see this very much.
So whilst you guys are loading and reading, the notes I have for this is that there was no damage for 12 minutes of this game. So the first 12 minutes there was no damage.
How does that happen with a deck this aggressive
I sort
versus
of
wind?
because I was scrubbing through the video and I was like, there's not a lot of damage here. So I had to look at it, and it was roughly 12 minutes, and I was like, that's pretty bonkers. But I've got then Alex holds his board presence for the whole game as Wind typically does, and has too much advantage. But let's kind of look in the list, I guess.
Yeah, the water ice deck has one. It runs 2 backups, both of them the 4-drop Larsa.
New one.
To presumably search his Griever out and start this aggro chain. And I love this deck, but yeah, it's sad to see it get so demolished by wind by the sounds of it. But yeah, it's nice to see Griever have a home, because I was playing this throughout this opus, and as we reviewed it and we were like, maybe it's good, and then I started feeling like it's terrible. But I think it's these board states where you're just in your opponent's face It's like board wipe or bust kind of vibe.
Yeah, and super interestingly as well, which I thought was a pretty decent card back in Opus 13, was the Celestia.
Yeah.
Just the fact that, anything that tries to deal damage to your water characters, it cannot be broken. That doesn't deal damage, basically. So any straight break effects, it has to be damage effects. And if anything's been chosen, any ice cards have been chosen, characters, then it's a Dull and Freezer character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got 3 of.
Yeah, and that's like a silver bullet against some decks, isn't it?
Very rare card to see text, but it's actually really nice in this.
Yeah. So he gets a chance against fire, which would have, a lot of good chances against this kind of deck usually.
Absolutely.
One thing I would say that something about this deck that really I enjoy is obviously water I like, and it's playing sort of techie counter stuff while simultaneously being a super in your face aggro deck and a little combo deck, because you've got the Sage, the standard unit Sage to activate forwards, you got Rosa to activate forwards, and that's all to combo with Griever. So we're dulling Griever, making them discard. We're activating it. We're making them discard again. If we've got both of those Rosa and standard unit on board, we're doing it again. We're making them discard 3 in a turn.
And also
horrifying.
And also he's also taking in Sarah Mobius, the legend Sarah Mobius from Opus 19, which will also benefit from the Rosa and Sage activation triggers.
Yeah. I like these little 2-card combo decks. It's very appealing to me.
I just feel like from looking at it, this is where my lack of knowledge comes in, but from looking at it, it just seems like the weighting is not correct in this deck. Like, there's 9, that, like you say, Sage, Rosa, Griever, that's a 9-card package. That's like a 5th of your deck dedicated to that package, and also there's loads of 4 cost and above with only 2 backups. You've got to open pretty perfect to manage that.
Yeah, no, his plan is slamming cards,
If I'm honest with you, I think because you've only got the 2 backups, and perfectly they're 4 cost. The only thing that's going to cost you 1 is going to be Cuculain. So if you actually have a backup down, that's probably the only time you're ever going to want to use that one. Oh yeah,
you're right, because the whole deck apart from Ultimecia and Cuculain is even cost. So
yes, exactly. Okay, so you are going to be discarding from hand to do most of your plays. And then if you are going to play Ultimecia, which I would suggest that you don't when you've got Griever, you could use that 1 CP as a backup for the odd cost of Ultimecia.
Yeah, okay.
But you're only going to really want to play Ultimecia off the Griever. I think that's the main aim of this one.
Yeah.
And obviously this is a cross of the Ruggagene Ice strategy, where we're hasting our Rufus and Stola, etc.
And Griever if you need to.
These water threats as well, and activations. I just like it. So good. It's a shame I didn't get to see more games with this deck.
But it's funny because we're overlooking the fact that Mono-Wind beat it. You know what I mean? Because
beat it so well.
I mean, we are looking at 16 summons in this Mono-Wind deck, and 3 Shinryu, which you don't normally get in Mono-Wind.
Yeah.
But because when are you going to be behind on forwards with Shinryu?
Yeah.
Unless
my brain, I see 3 light cards in a Mono-Wind deck, and I'm like, how are you not ruining your storm turns with these light cards? Apparently you're just not. Apparently you're just too good.
You flop them down and just carry on. In a crude sense. But the fact that he's running 1 Fina and it worked so perfectly as well. He just used that 1 Fina.
I guess the Shinryu gets the Fina.
Well, there you go.
Having a source of universal search.
Where's Venus? I'm looking for that. Which card is that?
It's
3-drop wind forward.
Between Rosa and Lulu.
Oh, Rosa. Oh, there we go. Yes.
So it's mono wins Amat.
Okay. Yeah, I'm reading. You guys go on.
Disgusting. Mono win needed that apparently.
Remove Fina from your hand and choose 1 auto ability from a forward.
So not as good as Amat. No, not at all. But still like really cheap and good.
You're just discarding 2 CP for
if you're against mono wind,
your forward is
3
not
or more
doing
backups, what
you want it to do.
Yeah, you're just like, oh god.
I think I cannot remember the game very well. I think maybe this is where I took a break. But my memory to watching him play is Mono Wind was in the final.
Yeah.
So I would leave the comment on this game to you guys.
I mean, when I was watching it, honestly, I remember one of the highlights being that there was very good Luso plays in this, and I think it was just that Alex got away too scot-free with not being punished. And if Wind isn't punished, we just know that Wind is a deck. If it's allowed to free cast, 2 to 3 turns in, it's gone too far. And that without like, there was nothing deep or meaningful for me in that game. It was just that Alex got to go free.
Yeah, the opening like 3 turns will have decided the whole game.
It's and
I don't know what threats Yamada put down, but clearly Alex just mopped him up.
Yeah,
it's very much what I struggle with as a new player, which I saw elements of on that stream of, if your opponent puts down like Evray or is it Typhon? No, I'm looking at
Atomos.
So if they put down Evray and Atomos early, and you've got no way of like dealing with that or out-tempoing the advantage that those monsters give, it's just free resource. And that's basically how that game went, is that no matter that, the water ice from Kaka just couldn't aggro fast enough to get out of Wind's natural affinity to, like you kind of say, flop it down in front of your opponent and play with it. It's basically what that Wind list did for a little bit. It just kind of did some public indecency for a bit.
I think as well, like Wind has this, is like, it will get you can't discard down Wind if it just finds its way through, you know. Like it's hard to keep Wind down on hand size.
You've always got to look at the opponent's hand.
It's just so efficient.
I mean, the only thing that I've ever found that can actually, you know, stop Wind is a well-timed Amat, but then again, where do you find the time when they're storming off? Do you know what I mean? They're just like, pop on, and you're like, now.
Yeah, the only way I've ever beat Storm decks is by slamming Twins and holding Amat.
Yeah, exactly.
So
turning stuff off.
So I think for Winter Cup people, if you see a Wind list, it's like, there's nothing new, it's just that it's Wind doing Wind things. So
absolutely.
It's not, Worlds didn't show us anything madly new, but it still just shows that Wind is still silly.
Still good.
Some ideas.
Was it Sildra that got hit? Was it? Not Sildra, sorry.
Sildra got the ban.
Yeah, Sildra got the ban, yeah.
But Althea got the ban.
Althea, that's the one. Sildra's water, isn't it, I think?
Althea got the ban, and I don't think it's actually changed anything.
Yeah. I'm glad that, like, it did get a ban, because clearly Wind would just be dominating everything.
It would be stupid.
Althea enabled Wind to always have a bounce available without proactively using its chocobos to bounce.
Well, exactly.
Whereas nowadays, if you want to get a big storm turn, you most of the time need the chocobo.
And typically, you wanted to leave the Althea up, so you couldn't use all of your CP. With the Althea gone, though, you can use all the CP given to you, unless you're using Chocolate, where you're adding counters and stuff like that, or say Moogle 11. But you have all the CP available to you without Althea, because obviously you're not having to leave a card up.
It's always an advantage, Althea.
Absolutely.
I would say, you know, it's not like...
that's what I'm saying. Is back in the day when you were playing Althea, you'd have it up, waiting for to do something in their turn, for example. But in your turn, when you're storming off, you've got all the CP to hand. You know what I mean? Without having to leave Althea
different,
open.
Not needing to plan around Althea anymore.
Exactly.
But
so
Wind flexing.
I think we've covered those games. I think the final is where we see like the crowning glory of a lot of these decks playing.
Yeah, so in the final match, it's Alex versus Nance, and Nance is the only player we've not like discussed his deck really.
Hunter Nance is such
so
good
with
games,
Nance, we've got his ice list. And then we have also got Nance's Magissa. And I was really glad I saw this, because Magissa is something that people have like constantly said at locals. You know, when you like join a new card game and everyone's like, oh, I don't know, insert card names, great, get 6 of those, and you're like, what is it? And you never buy it. Magissa is the card I haven't seen until this point. And Magissa put in work.
Crazy to see an Opus 12 hero like repping Worlds in
a final,
in Opus 21. in
a final. I think it's safe to say in the first game that first game was the wall deck against Magissa, if I'm correct. Am I correct in that? So yeah, in the actual final, I think it was wall against Magissa, and I think this was the point where he got the EX burst that he needed to get out of because I think Alex took the first game, then Nance took the second with his mono.
Poor Hunter, I just remember him shaking his head at the amount of EXs. Poor guy.
I mean, it
must be difficult when you've got that far. And, you know, credit to the players for that. I'd be banging my head on the table. I'd be getting emotional.
Yeah. Is it the fact that he's running 3 Tyvus for Axstar is nice. There's not much in a way of other warriors apart from Yuzuki and Firion. Oh, and Ward. Yeah, there we go. So you've got some decent warriors package in there.
And the fact Ward pings Magissa and activates her.
Absolutely.
Is a nice little crossover of synergies.
Yeah, Tyvus is like another new trend we're seeing, like in Opus 21. Like you're going to start seeing warrior packages in a lot of things. So it's kind of
see my deck at Winter Cup. But we'll get on to that in a sec.
Yes.
So in terms of the Magissa deck, he did what he could to the best of his ability to keep the Warrior of Light deck down. Do you know, with turn 2, I think if I remember correctly, Alex did turn 2 Warrior of Light. I can't remember what he produced, but he produced something that shut most of the deck down, and I think Hunter Nance came back with a good answer against it. But it was then the 2 hits that Alex took that gave him enough CP to be able to play another Warrior of Light next turn. It was, I cannot remember. I'm failing my mind. My mind's on the last 2 games.
It's a very like Warrior of Light is what was coined like at locals yesterday. It's a very angry deck. It's a very angry Legends deck. You know, that kind of thing.
Ironically, Magissa has always been that too. It's been it's been an aggressive deck, and you played quite a lot of aggressive forwards.
Such a front-loaded deck, you know.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna create value so early that you're not gonna be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best decks at doing that. It's just, you know, there's always feels like there's a glass cannon element to these things. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's so cool to see these decks like get to the highest stage of the game.
I mean, who
no one would say, "Oh, it'll be a Magissa deck." You'd be like, "Nah,
wanna win, mate." But or even the new Warrior of Light. To be honest,
new Warrior of Light or 4-color Warrior of Light. Those you'd expect.
Yeah, on
Magissa.
Exactly. On our podcast from last time, on our Legends review, I was kind of feeling the new Warrior of Light was not as good as I initially thought it was.
You felt bad about it.
I was like, oh, it's crap. You know what I mean? I thought, oh no, you're never going to hit those numbers. And I think mainly I was listening to a lot of what other people were saying, and I think I was making my own opinions on what other people were saying, and I think actually everyone else who said these numbers are too high roll, you're not going to hit them, actually are eating their own words on it, to be honest with you, because it's proven that you don't need that many 3 costs in there.
It was a nice deck building challenge, so it's cool to see the players come through and be like, this card is strong if I build my deck like this. It's so interesting to see that like innovative use of like standard unit backups to like fulfill that, you know. And then like just finding this crystal strategy out of nowhere, especially with the new Cyan board wiping, and that's another legendary reviewed where we were like, don't know.
And it's coming. Cyan's coming in big now, and don't underestimate Cyan's. What is it? 3 crystal. There's the one that's like do 3k ping. Like just stacking 3 crystals of that and doing 3.
I think
doing a 9k.
I think it was Hunter Nance who actually put on. He didn't go for the full 5. He only contributed only 3 CP to get those 3 crystals to make that ping. Those. At least it's a 9k shot at something, you know. That's pretty big to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of new backups and things like that just make new and old backups to just give you enough crystals that's a very cheap cost now. So
it's super interesting.
It's weird though, because we've spoken about other decks that sort of like the final in a way, like talking about Alex versus Nance. We've done most of it already. Because when you kind of go on, when I look at then the ice list, I just think sort of ice versus wind. It's kind of just the innovation's the same with this ice, that you've got the Rugagine, you've got the Yestola, you've got the Euphemian.
It's the same mono ice deck we already spoke about, essentially.
Exactly, and I think Hunter Nance and Will Coghill, who are actually from the US, both had similar sort of, well, they have almost exactly the same lists, but I think they're also talking to each other, I think, about these lists. So I think with the way that Hunter played this, he was just like, he knew he was going up against wind. He knew he was going up against a deck that needed to be rushed down. and he was straight in with Lofi and Rufus from the. The day go. It was like immediate, straight in
it's
there.
what he had to do, right?
It's exactly, and he got.
I don't think Hunter ever made a misplay. He just got beaten anyway.
Well, no, I would safely say that in game 2, he just needed that quick win to be able to move into the last game, and I think it was the last game that showed how horrible Wind can be.
I think that's what it is.
It was Wind against Magissa.
Yeah.
And the idea that you can simply, I think the one player that I think would stick in everybody's mind from Alex, that it came down to the slightest bit of luck on 2 cards, was getting the Rosa 5 cast trigger, flipping a Zedan to take an Amat
I
off
remember
the top
that.
of Hunter's deck. I mean,
Iconic.
You can't not look at that and go, how? How does chance and luck not play into the smallest part of this game? As much as the getting to the 5 cast.
This is why people feel so that 2-drop Zedan. It's such a feels bad card, isn't it? When you get beaten with your own deck,
well, it's very
it
much
feels really bad. I do feel so bad for Hunter in that final, but
I think that was the straw on the camel's back, wasn't it? Really.
I mean, maybe some of these players should have been taking Win themselves. Maybe it's it's sort of seen as a high skill, high difficulty deck.
Yeah,
I'd say that's probably true from my perspective. My brain fries. I know some people think it's just degenerate.
Yeah,
but I would disagree with them. I'd say it is like getting a Storm game done in 30 minutes feels like a superhuman feat.
So it's well achieved.
Yeah.
What's your superpower? I can fly, I can shoot laser beams, I can play Storm in under 30 minutes.
Exactly.
I think that's the main thing I'm looking when I look at just like literally I like open the decks and kind of look at the colours like you were doing at the breakdown a minute ago. It seems more like a very good not rogue, but like calculated choice that Alex is the only one that ran mono Wind, because it's in a room and a meta that everyone kind of said. I had a thing at locals of like, oh, it's all just for flipping aggro. Ugh. It's like, actually, yes, it is mostly aggro in a room where the monkey symbols are crashing really loud. There are only going to be like 1 or 2 people that kind of go, wait a minute, Wind can abuse, like Zedan. Zedan has a higher likelihood of taking advantage of aggro cards. Yeah. If the meta had, I don't know, a lot of monsters, a lot of earth, or a lot of other people were playing Wind wouldn't be as good because the Zedans wouldn't have as good hits. So I think he actually made a very clever deck choice because he had the current meta meant that he could just play for free half the time.
Yeah. I think it is a nice deck, and I think Alex said it's just what he's comfortable on. Like, absolutely. I think he was quite set on Wind, and like.
Well, this is what I was saying. That he was sat in his pocket. It was sat in his zone. Like he said, he's always felt an affinity to Wind cards.
Yeah, and you almost feel like the deck's tied to him as a person.
Yeah,
if the deck drops off, so will he.
Well, look back. If you look back at his last win of Worlds in 2018.
Probably.
One of those days. One of those years he won. I think it was 2017. And anyway, 2018. One of those years he won. And he obviously named his card Bart's. His win card. Winning card that he named was Bart's with his name on it. And Bart's, for anyone who can't remember, is if you play Bart's, you activate all your backups. And so
if you're in mono Wind.
If you're in mono Wind.
Yeah.
So it's a 5-costed 9 CP. No, 5-costed 9k blank forward, free forward.
Yeah.
That was a staple within most mono Wind decks back then.
Yeah.
And so you can see that trend still happening for him.
Yeah.
To a point where now, like, you won Worlds with it. It's again.
It's quite a nice story, isn't it? Really, I was really, really happy to see Alex win it. Like, nice guy, he's given loads to the game.
Yes.
And like insane player as well.
I think there's modest. A lot to be said. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for someone who can sit for 3 or 4 hours just chatting to people on Twitch, streaming, just building decks. you know, and just having a nice chat with the community.
Yeah.
What you think what decks would be best,
Yeah.
and just playing some games on Octagon with people on stream.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that like open book mentality. You know, like you'd expect some really competitive players to be secretive about their tech or their what their thoughts are. They're trying to get an edge wherever they can. He's not like that. He's just sat there, open book, says what he thinks, and plays how he plays, and it's just really nice to see.
Even he has, to a fault, said that he cannot see a card without seeing the competition of a card. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can look at a card and just go nah. So when most of his X-Death reviews on his page,
known as X-Death the Wizard. That's his Facebook
X-Death
page,
the Wizard. He, in his reviews, he's looking at it from mostly a very competitive sort of perspective, which you should analyze a card from a perspective of you're taking it to a competition, right? But he also sees value in just enjoying the game as well, and that's something that most people who live in the competitive scene sometimes don't see. You know what I mean? They're very tunnel vision of need this deck to win.
I love casual FFTCG.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the game so much when I was getting into it, and we were all terrible at the game, and like we were all playing weird decks.
Yep.
Like that's
two Shinryu or whatever they were on
Shuyin.
That was it. Two Shuyin on the backup line.
Alex is really not just Alex. Quite a few players I found as we move on. We'll move on into the Winter Cup thing kind of now as well. But Alex is a very someone I've been able to buy cards off him, and he's like very down to earth. Like you say, he doesn't hide anything. And I saw an interaction on Facebook with Alec recently, where Alex said, "And you'll get to meet a world champion. Maybe you'll play against a world champion." And Alex just replied with, "Not going to go now." Now you've said that, and it's kind of like, I like the humor from Alex and the community. You can like the fact that the world champion, you can have a joke like that on Facebook with like a community manager in Yu-Gi-Oh, because this is interesting. You were saying about my experience earlier. Even at Nat's level, I would not have a chance in hell of speaking to anybody in Top Cut. It's closed. It's a closed community of, this isn't bad, it's just a game, but it's a closed community of people that testing silence, testing groups, nobody talks, you don't know what they're doing, you know, and the polar opposite for like the world champion, just like lol. On Facebook is nice.
I think it's super refreshing, and I think like the fact that not just him, but a lot of our community in FFTCG is just so open and humble. It just makes, as we're about to segue, going to Winter Cup so much nicer, because like we just said at the beginning, you're gonna see people that you just gel with, and you just know you're gonna have a nice sit down. You could go to the pub like most of the YYT do, and just sit and have a game in a pub whilst having a pint, and everything's civil.
Shout out to James Duff, and James. It will not be civil, I imagine. So
lots of drink involved.
I'm going to say, my spidey sense says day 2 hangover.
I'm looking forward to finding out what people's goblin policy are with the YYT. You know, It's gonna be something to I think you're gonna be sitting in day 2 going, I'm glad we're in Commons Cup.
My brain can handle Commons. So speaking of other things then, because we've gone over Worlds and that's quite lovely, then Winter Cup is coming up, which is kind of why we're doing the podcast, because we were like, let's sit down as a 3 and talk about what we're doing for Winter Cup anyway. We're not going to tell you guys on podcast the spice though, because that would be telling. But it's just so we can get our marbles together.
We're totally the people you need to steal the info off, right?
Oh wow, like that Victor Patton.
World champions in open book. The players who can't get top cut are guarding their secrets.
I can't even get top cut in a store championship.
I think I've told like everyone that asks me, I'm like, I'm running one of these 2 decks. Like, who gives a crap, you know? But,
no, I think there's something nice to be said about like just keeping some cards close to your chest whilst opening up about your general idea.
You just have that fear, don't you? That you'll be paired against somebody who's heard what your deck is, and that one card that like is better and it all works against
but
you. I understand that fear.
I'm running a different Vanille. You know?
I don't think anyone listening to this
no.
that conscious about it.
No, it's fine.
I'm running Exo Ray Control. You wouldn't have heard of it.
I'm actually playing my Commons Cup list for the main event.
Yeah, and then switching it up and having a different Commons Cup.
So we've got what we sort of know. It's a 2-day event officially, but actually on the Friday. So this is next Friday. It's at Firestorm Games in Cardiff is where Winter Cup is taking place. They're going to be next Thursday actually is Firestorm Games' last locals before Winter Cup, and then Friday they're doing like open and casual play all day, specifically like inviting FFTCG players, and they're going to be running a live stream all day on the Friday as well. And just if people turn up on the day, they want you to get involved on the stream as well. So FF players who are turning up, I believe it's Paul that's kind of speak to Paul and speak to anyone else at Firestorm Games. Admittedly, Paul is the main person that I speak to, but there's like loads and loads of people you should speak to there.
He is kind of like the voice of the I won't say the voice of the community because that's unfair on others, but he's got a lot of he's got his hand in a lot of what's going on in Firestorms.
It's because I did the online event that Paul ran for about a month, and it was awesome, loved it. But anyway, so you can turn up on the Friday, maybe get involved in some fun stuff on stream as well as doing that open play. But then things kick off on the Saturday.
Firstly, before we delve into exactly what happens on the Saturday, we had a beautiful announcement from our wonderful community manager, Alec Thorne, who stated that Kageyama-san and Morita-san will be joining us. And for those who don't know, Kageyama-san is the producer of Final Fantasy TCG, and he will be gracing us with his wonderful presence at Winter Cup this time. So he's bringing a lot of fun little presents for us, I think.
Yes, we'll go on to those.
Really excited about that.
In terms of the way the layout of the day is, I think you've got a good rundown.
Yeah, if you guys are happy for me to, I'll read off what our notes said earlier. So I haven't got anything like precise times or anything because I don't want anyone to take us as gospel. But it's going to be like early kickoff and registration on the Saturday, as it is with all events like this. Like wake up early, make sure you've got your deck list written out. We've got the main event, obviously. We've got side events, which is going to be team commons, and then we've got your on-demand sort of like regular 4 and 8 player pods of L3, L6 format and commons only. And there's also going to be demo Hobby Japan board games, which makes sense because Hobby Japan are tied to this game at the hip, obviously.
Yep.
It's important to remember as well that if you bought your ticket for the Winter Cup, that you'll get a playmat for participating. You have to actually be there and participating if you bought your ticket by the end of November. If you didn't, you don't get one, as far as I'm aware.
At least no guarantee.
Yeah, no guarantee, yeah. I feel like we need a terms and conditions, like other supermarket chains do exist.
You do that speedy voice, right?
Yeah. That's like my normal voice. And then we'll also have throughout the weekend the Gill Shop, which, oh my god, when he posted about it and I asked you guys, like, what's this Gill Shop thing? I just died of happiness.
It's really good.
So can someone talk us through Gill Shop?
So basically, when you enter, they will give you a set amount of gil. I don't know how much gil it will be, but they will give you some gil on door, effectively, for participating.
Gil is a currency in the Final Fantasy franchise, by the way.
Yeah, I hope all of you would know, seeing as you are within the Final Fantasy game. But hey, for those who haven't, gil is a gil.
We can be nice to the TCG players.
I mean, Final Fantasy is so good.
Hey, French doesn't know like any Final Fantasy game, so
I'm sure he knows what gil is. Sure. You better do, French.
Shout out to that non-real fan.
So, yeah, gil is a currency which is obviously within the Final Fantasy franchise, and you can exchange gil in a shop to get solid, real material items within the shop. And you can also accrue these gil, or earn gil, by how far you get within day one.
Yeah, you'll get more gil for a win than a loss. They'll give it you at the end of your games.
And then also it actually trickles down into day 2 of the side events too. Yes. So the better you do, the more gil you get. I felt very salty about it when I was in from the last one in 2019 because I was like,
you getting us to switch events?
No, not at all. I was just saying, back in that day when I was just like, sat with my little deck, and I was just like, you people who have got top cut are getting awesome prizes, and we down here have a small amount of gil. You got loads. And, I was just like, you win more by winning more.
Please, sir, may I have some gil?
I feel very stifled. But yeah,
you know what they say? Get good.
Can't have them all.
Jono's skill issue.
Several different ways of saying
that. No, I base all my losses on my crap luck. So no, I think in general it's a wonderful thing to have back into the event. In terms of actual day one, the main event is best of one, Swiss for however many rounds, most likely 8. And I think there's I think they're saying you can either make top cut with either, depending on tiebreakers, X1 or X2. That's what's been stated here, depending on player numbers.
Nice.
So if you get X2, don't worry about it. You're fine. And then also the prizes that trickle down into that. I think Kageyama's included top 32 as having the beautiful sleeves that he's bringing over.
So,
that's pretty nice.
Yeah, so don't feel too bad.
So our prize,
fit into top 32.
So the prizing I'm not going to do too much detail, but prizing, first place is going to be a figure, and then top 2 get figures again. Top 4 you get busts. If people don't know, a bust is obviously chest and above of a figure, essentially. Top 8, more figures, but they're bring art ones specifically. Yeah. So first place is so far getting 1, 2, 3, 4 figures. And also then top 32 is where we are getting the sleeves from Kageyama that he's bringing. Kageyama-san. Thank you. And then top 64 is the cardboard deck box as well.
Yeah, the crystal deck box, which I think is quite specific to what they've been getting over in Japan. So I think, with the wonderful prizing, it's actually not too bad to fit within top 32, or even 64 if you get like a.
I'm just looking forward to the guild shop though. That kind of thing is just like, if you know you're going to an event and you know, quote unquote, you're not going to do well or whatever, something like the guild shop and the side event, just really make it worth it for a bit of fun. So
talking about the not doing so well and all that sort of thing. How do you feel moving into the Winter Cup after watching what you've seen and discussed as, what the Worlds has been and how we feel the potential room's going to look like?
So we've got 7 days,
roughly. Yeah.
I still don't know what deck I'm going to take.
I'm tossing up 2, but I know that one deck I have been changing frequently, 1 card, 2 card, 3 card, like every day, and I still don't feel set.
Same here.
I do hope that my mindset settles on something, but I'm the whole deck idea is mostly revolved around Tyvus, and Tyvus is such a strong boy in a lot of scenarios.
So Winter Cup's a fun cup. You don't necessarily have to sweat and be serious. No. But I've never got a top cut in a good big competition, So I'm tempted to really try hard and try and take meta. And do that kind of thing. But it's, the thing that's holding me back is my brain, like trying to play something like Storm.
8 rounds of storming. I think you're brave, whoever is actually bringing
practice
Storm.
Makes perfect, right?
Well,
I could sit there on my own and doing Storm plays.
not worrying about making top cut, but just enjoying the fact that you're learning.
Hey, you know what they say? It's not the destination, it's the journey.
I was just going to say practice makes perfect.
It's not the amount of damage you do, but how many casts you get in a turn. Is that the Storm equivalent of that damage?
If I deck myself out with my own storming, that's basically the same as winning, right? In my book. How much serotonin do you farm out of your deck?
I think you can walk away with crisp high fives from that.
I just want that whole mono win conversation to be in beautiful italic calligraphy on a black background. That's just beautiful. I'm kind of between the do I want my opponent to hate me or do I want to make friends kind of decision.
But you're coming to a big tournament for probably the first time. You went to one little store championship, but you are bringing something that you've had sort of comfortable since start. right? And I think you were trying to make a video talking about this before on your own channel.
Yeah, and it's something I'll come up to, but I'm like basically it's no secret that I'll be taking a flavour of aggro, but it's like I would get more satisfaction. I think I got told this actually earlier online from Paul. It was like, or was it Paul? God, my memory's terrible. But basically, like, play a deck you'd enjoy losing with.
Yes.
And like, if I follow that, that already goes in line with my gut of which deck I'd play.
That's pretty good advice.
Because like that's the one thing that I fell in love with at this game at Huddersfield. And I remember coming up to Jono at the end of every round, and I was like, I just like lost this game, and I loved it. Like I loved losing, and I've never loved losing in a TCG. So I am going to follow Paul's advice and like take a deck. I think I'm probably going to taking the deck that I'll enjoy losing with. My only goal, kind of like on Sam's thing, is that I want to try and do better than I did at Huddersfield. And at Huddersfield, I came 29th out of 52, so I'd love to like aim for that spot.
Yeah.
And so if I can kind of get around that area, I'll be happy. But it's a big up. I think we're like around 110, 120 players at this point.
Yeah, I think they were selling 130 tickets.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a big crowd.
Yeah. Winter Cup in Glasgow, I hit mid-table. I was like bang in the centre of the event, which is fine, but like I want to do better than that.
Absolutely.
I think you can, Sam. I think
you'll. I think with the deck that you've got, I think you've got a good chance. I think it's safe to say from Worlds that it's got a good chance because you've seen those decks in Worlds.
Yeah, similar-ish.
Similar-ish. But I'm going off my last experience of Winter Cup where I took a very sort of like sideways deck that no one else could see. It like coming, I suppose. With
you had a dreamy run with that warrior
with Refia.
Light Refia, yeah.
Oh, I mean that was Opus 10. We're talking Opus 10 with where Waff was storming.
Yeah, everyone's
around.
on Waff, and you out aggroed them with Refia.
with Warriors of Light. And it was just that. I don't think I could possibly match that with the current state the game's in right now. I think I got 28 out of the room. Something along those lines. I was 28, 29, but I went for XO after 4 rounds, and so I felt comfortable. I did end 5-3, but still, I don't know. I'm going into this with just playing something that you enjoy, and I think
it's tough. It's tough to out aggro the meta. Sorry.
Absolutely, no, yeah, absolutely, and I think the meta has changed a lot since I've attended the Winter Cup. Massively is like 11 sets since we played.
Yeah.
So
I'm jealous of that Refia experience you had. Taking a rogue deck and doing well is the TCG dream.
Right?
You lived it.
I think the only thing that really struck me hard on those games, the losses, was back then YRP water wind, which was basically
never like that deck.
Which was basically
disgusting.
Mono wind back in the day. It wasn't actually mono wind, but it played similarly because it was so many free things.
Way less fun, in my opinion.
And so you didn't necessarily have to think, you just did.
Well, it had mono wind with a high EX count. That's what it was. Like, at least with Mono Wind, you can go, how short can I make this damage timer? You'd be like, play 3 2-drops turn 1. They're dead in 3 turns, guaranteed.
I think
or not guaranteed. You know what I mean?
But I think the best card in the game back then was Veil 4, and also Famfrit. And those 2 cards in one deck was brutal back then,
the 3-drop Famfrit.
3-drop Famfrit, that when you played her forward, basically it was 3 CP, and
I used to love that card.
Both opponent and yourself get to choose a forward to put into the break zone, and it's a put into the break zone effect. So there's no stopping it. At all back then. I don't think you could stop it. There was no real outs apart from maybe bringing it back, returning something back to your hand. And
that was a nice card in Monster decks as well.
Yeah, it was mate. That was great. So that plus also Veil 4, which was basically 3k board wipe, and if you have
activate all your backups.
if you have a Una on the field, so you go pay it. 3k board wipe, activate backups, pay it. I pay another one if you've got another one in hand, or get one back from break zone.
And the fact that was meta all the way from Opus 5 or 6 up through till
like 12.
Rampare era.
Yeah.
So later than 12, isn't it?
No, Rampare was quite early. I think it was 11, 12. I think it was 12.
Yeah. But for way too long, that was the top tier deck.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad our meta since then has always been nicer, in my opinion.
I think it's been still diverse in a lot of sense. Even at that point, it was still quite diverse because you had WAF, which was dominating. WAF has actually come back a little bit in this.
We probably see some WAF decks at Winter Cup.
Most likely, I think.
Snow with Amnesia Waifu. Disgustingly strong.
Amnesia Waifu, I love that.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing a lot. When people said that a few times, I don't get it. The girl who I was like, oh,
The girl who forgot her name. Yeah.
Amnesia Waifu.
I don't know why she's a waifu. She's only a little girl. That's a bit creepy.
Well, that's Japanese culture. Right? That's the reference.
I suppose. Yep.
Moving swiftly on from that. I guess the last thing we can talk about, which is the nice thing Jono came up with, and for everyone to think about, because Kageyama-san was going to be there. What card would people want Kageyama to sign if you got the opportunity to thrust cardboard at him? I've kind of had to think about it, and I almost went with the Opus 2 Warrior of Light Legend, and then I was like, do I want to be a basic bitch and get a Warrior of Light signed by a Final Fantasy staff member, kind of thing. And I'm like, actually, I'm thinking maybe Opus 19 Zidane? Maybe?
Yeah.
Because that's more sentimental, or like a Beatrix, or like your Lanny, for example.
Yeah, I mean, like, because back when in Opus 10 with the 2019, which we were just talking about, I got my 3 non-foil regular Refia that I actually did well with signed by Kageyama, because I felt that was like a stamp of approval. Do you know? Not approval, but a stamp to say this card has done me good. Do you know what I mean?
Nice memento as well.
Exactly, and I was able to just get them signed immediately, and I was like happy, and they're sat in a binder, just loving life. I have a full art of it now. I'm wondering whether I do that, but I don't know. It'd be a bit of another sentimental thing.
Throwback, yeah.
Or do I go for just one card that I feel like... Do I go for a card that I'm playing on the day? Because I feel like that also signs that day as my...
Attaches the memory.
Do you know what I mean? Of the deck.
Time, yeah.
And I get to play that card in a later stage, if I play it in a later game, a couple of sets down the line, it comes out signed. Do you know what I mean? I'm having fun going, I've got memories attached to this card. That's how I played it last time, and I'm wondering whether, if it does me bad, if it doesn't, the card or the deck doesn't do me good, do I get it signed? You know what I mean? That's the thing. But I think at the end of the day, it's how you feel. Like I remember you getting the Tombreys signed.
Yes.
Because that's a card that sat with you
non-foil,
since.
just a rare.
But how do you feel about that? Because
it's great, yeah.
Exactly.
It's memory. I'm tempted to get the new Tombury.
Yeah.
But I've also got full art Tom Betty. I've got so many options.
I mean, yeah, and I think what you're sitting in is nostalgia plus nice attachment cards that you've had.
Yeah.
Like I've got a playset of Cypher that I used to absolutely love, but I regret never getting signed. So potentially, Opus 6 Cypher.
Yeah, I've got also if it's cards you enjoy playing, could be Kukulane, 1-drop Kukulane.
I feel like he'd give that back to you unsigned. I was thinking this a second ago. I could give him 13 full art starter, and he'll be like, no, have that back.
He does not condone such aggro.
I'm sorry that I helped create this card.
So how do you feel? What would you go for? Would you say I think a starter? I still think.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna take a few options and just go with either generic Final Fantasy card like a Warrior of Light, because I love that Dissidia art from Opus 2.
Yep.
Or I will go with probably a Final Fantasy 9 card that I really like. Even maybe one of the Black Waltzes, because the card that got me into this game, apart from generally all of them, is the full art of Black Waltz 2, which I made that playing that of and customized that art. And I think that stained glass art is just
it's beautiful.
I'm wondering if you have the bravery to take your full art Zidane and get it signed.
I was
potentially you'd be like, is this ad value or not?
I was thinking about that. I was like, I'll have to buy another full art Zidane.
I think you should, because I don't know if value actually decreases with a sign. I'm not saying that because
it should increase. Right?
It should increase.
It is a relevant.
It's a natural signed card, but if you think about playability with what people want, for example, they want to see clean decks.
Yeah.
Do you know
clean
what I mean?
Folders for collectors.
You know what I mean? I feel like you're gonna not necessarily bring the value down as such, later times, maybe you might
change
get a
the
collector.
market. It'll go
You
to.
kind of, you've got something to play with, I suppose. So getting an extra one might just feel.
Yeah, so we'll see. Have you got any ideas, Sam, or is it just your think probably on the Tombury?
Oh, all kinds of silly cards. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person to get a high value card signed. I don't think.
Fair. Well,
Get the money worth.
Hopefully everyone else has got an idea.
I wonder if there's anyone's going to like come with the whole deck and like take up his time for ages.
You would be an asshole.
It seems like.
I was thinking you could get like loads of Tomburys and make make a little mosaic, and he has to sign the mosaic of the Tomburys, like the whole thing, you know. But I think we've kind of gone through all the things and the stuff. So the fun thing for us is that we're just going to be wearing T-shirts and jackets. If you see any people,
Team Slice and Dice.
Seems like in Jono's
collegiate jackets.
Yeah.
Oh,
in Jono's
crisp.
words, if you see us, give us the crispest of high fives. Be like, hey.
Definitely feel like you've just seen us out of high school.
Yeah. Wait, I didn't know I was coming to a High School Musical like gathering, and we're just sitting
all in this together.
Mono wind.
They're like, what are these 30-year-olds doing in collegiate jackets?
But
what kind of place is this?
But we're all going to be repping those jackets when we're sat across from you, as we are playing in the Team Commons Cup. So you're going to see us three across from you in uniform if you're going for the side event on day 2.
And we haven't even covered Commons yet.
I feel like I was looking at it on our list, and I don't feel like there's much to say other than Commons is happening.
We made it happen,
and we
Phil.
made
There's a lot to be said.
Oh, okay. Whoa. But Commons.
I do feel like we put
with the help of Steve D, of course. Shout out to the best content creator. Love that guy.
One of the
other content creators do exist.
Still really like all the other ones though. Well, nearly all of them.
It's not like
also, he's the second best content creator because they're Slice and Dice. Like, you know.
If you're not confident, then what are you?
A mono win player? No.
Oh, mate.
He's throwing shade at the world champion. That is true confidence.
It only starts in May.
I want to see you in the final for Winter Cup.
But yeah, I think Commons Cup is like it's kind of self-explanatory. We did it, but I think it will just be really fun. It'll be nice to see something that started with us there.
I think when
that was really nice. That Commons Cup was so pleasant.
It was great. I mean, it was only 9 players, but at the same time, it felt like something completely brand new. Because you're working. Even though it sounds crap in general, like people don't necessarily like turn their heads when they hear Pauper.
You know, that's probably the event that I've done the most deck testing for in my life. the little 9-person Commons Cup in Nottingham.
But that is because you're looking at cards that shouldn't necessarily add value to a deck. They shouldn't. They should be discarded for like just. The one possible CP in there or something like that. Like an evoker. But actually,
like 10% of the cards we were using can get into constructed, and that was the joy of it. Just bringing life to those fun cards.
You're opening up the volume of your folders and your binders. You're opening them up and going, what actually have I not seen before in my sleeves? And they go, hey, this card's going to work well.
Yeah.
And I think.
You get me riled up for this side event, man.
It's going to be good.
I'm going to be so into it.
Well, you better get your games gone. Get your games on because you're carrying me. I will do my best.
I'm going to tell. If I think your deck's not up to scratch, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put it in front of you. I'm going to put it in front of you, and you have to go through it because I want.
And we're going to test it. And I'm going to. If this can't beat our decks a bit. It's not good enough.
if I'm being completely honest,
because mine's going to be
the pricing is
stronger than last time. It's boosted in Opus 21.
Yeah, I think is it. I'm not going to say it, but is this the one I'm thinking of?
The one I played against you.
Yeah. No, that you sat for.
No mention of what that is.
We sat for a whole game, and what you think is an aggro deck just is milling itself out against something because there's so many.
But that was fun to watch back for me, and not so much for you, maybe.
So in the side events, they're actually pretty cool pricing actually. So for the side events, you get the leather-bound premium deck box for top tier.
The black one or the white one, though?
Doesn't
Or is this
say.
a different?
I think I'm not.
Oh, is that
entirely-
the Vincent one? The
I
red
don't know,
one?
but it doesn't.
Is
It would say the triple thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because I think it's specifically
It's
to
not
triple.
the triple
It
one.
just says leather bound.
All right, it'll probably be those white or black ones.
Because the
right?
white ones are the EU
Yeah.
opus
Yes,
and the
and
black
then
and the American. So
I'll
probably
We'd be lucky if they're the black ones.
I'm gonna rep
Yeah.
both anyway because I got both. But then top eight in teams will have the 3 packs. So even if you were competing in the side event and you didn't make top 32 in for day 1, then you will still have the chance to get sleeves. The 3 sleeves that will be brought over. Oh, it says 3 packs of Japanese National Championships sleeves to be split between the team. So there's 3 packs. We have to argue about which one we're getting.
Which is which, yeah.
Enjoy.
Arm wrestles for privilege, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Chocobo, yeah.
Yeah.
You having lightning? I'll have gold best. Okay.
Just had arm wrestle start mid podcast.
So yeah, there's definitely still there's still hopes in the side events, as there always is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'll be half gutted, but obviously I'll be overjoyed if I get top cut, but I probably won't.
Oh,
But it's good because it means I'll be happy. I can tell myself I'm happy to not be in top cut.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
start,
just win-win. Winter Cup's so good.
Can we start the hashtag on Twitter of hashtag Sam for Top Cut?
No pressure.
We're gonna have to find an extra person, Phil. Who are we gonna find? It's like we had our team set.
Or as some players nicknamed me on a night out in Wales, Riz Lord.
Wow. he's brought the game.
One of my funniest FF
Should have got that on
memories.
your team jacket.
Oh, I should have, yeah.
Rizlord.
Well, it's really, really cringe, so I can't really hold it, can I?
I don't know why. I've just thought of changing the R for a J. I don't know why. Oh man,
You're a disgrace.
I feel like I really need a top cut transition, Ed. I mean, on that bombshell.
Thank you guys for sticking into the podcast for as long as you have.
Yeah, sorry for the people who just stopped listening. Thanks to Jonathan.
But I think we're at a point where it's safe to cut off now, right?
Yeah, we're pretty good. So if you see us at Winter Cup, just give us a crisp high five and enjoy. If you have any sort of things you enjoy about Winter Cup or things you want to ask us, things you want to contribute to our podcast, just DM any of us, comment on Facebook, anywhere it is. We like to take questions. We like to take ideas for things to talk about. So feel free to just interact, correct us.
This is, as we go forward, something that we are just enjoying, and as nothing necessarily to take to heart seriously. It's just a nice little pastime, which I think should hopefully be reflected in how we're delivering these.
And there's no podcasts out there in FFTCG, and that's just unfortunate.
It's
so
nice. It's
now
nice.
we're
It's nice to fit in that little pocket.
niche. Yes.
So thank you for sticking throughout our ramblings, and hopefully you can tune back in for the next one.
Yep.
At a later date.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Ciao for now.
Bye bye.